So, so first of all, thank you for having me here. I get invited once every couple of years to come in, and it's always a pleasure because as a longtime city manager and working in cities, getting to do this kind of thing at the county level is not something I get to enjoy anymore. When I was a city manager, even a deputy city manager, I'd get invited, but at the county level, it just doesn't happen as often. Actually, generally speaking, you're the only group that invites me in. So, I kind of appreciate it, even on a Saturday morning. So I am going to talk about a variety of things, but just real quick. So I do know some of the folks in the room, but I don't know all of you. Some of you I know better than others. But I am Jonathan Lewis. I am your county administrator. That means I represent the board and are responsible for all 2,200 county employees and responsible for the board and their 464,000 residents. So I have tried to tailor this a little bit more to the city of Sarasota area, but obviously what I cover is the whole county, so I can't do that exclusively. I've lived in Sarasota County since 2011 when I became the city manager in Northport, and I was there until I joined the county in 2017 with the then county administrator who told me he was going to stay 5 to 8 years. And about 3 months after I was there, he walked into my office and shut the door, and I was thinking, dang, how could I have messed something up that already? I really just got here. And he said, yeah, I think I'm gonna leave. So, and then the board, against my wishes, made me the interim. Anybody know what that's like? And then right after that, the county administrator. So it's a little bit. My wife and I've lived here since 2011. She's a native Floridian. And we've lived on the west coast of Florida, actually most of our adult lives, except for a brief stint when I was the deputy city manager almost directly across the state in Palm Bay, Florida. So that's a little bit about me. Oh, look at that, I didn't hit the right button. So, when it comes to Sarasota County, and every year, you have the census information, and that's important. We've got to have it every decade. It does a lot of things. What also matters to the cities and the county is what comes out of the state, out of the University of Florida every year, which gives our population on an annual basis, and that changed on an annual basis. So for those of you who have I don't see anybody with their computer out really, so I'm gonna go with the fact that nobody has it in front of them. But just basically that we're 464,000 people strong in Sarasota County. You all know that's growing. How many of you lived more than 30 years? All right. How about if you've lived here, those keep your hand up. How about if you lived here more than 20 years? 10? And then 5 or less, put your hand up for me. Okay, good. That's actually a pretty good dispersal. So that's pretty interesting. So basically what this is saying, and I don't know if you can see it, but I certainly can't see it with this glare, so I'm just kind of winging it right now. Obviously, most of the population in Sarasota County lives in unincorporated Sarasota County. So that means on a day-to-day, the services they get, they don't have a municipality that they receive their services through, whether it's law enforcement or their local parks or any of those kind of things. So we are the primary service provider for more than half of the county. Certainly, Sarasota's population is significant. The city of Sarasota at about 55,000, and those are based on the official counting numbers. I think they're low, and obviously it doesn't have anything to do with the surge you see on a daily basis based on people coming in or out. That's just the official population. We do add, at least pre this summer and for major storms, add about 15 people per day. Which is kind of mind-boggling if you think about it, and that's a good percentage of the 1,000 that are supposedly moving into the state every day. So when it comes to growth, people who have been here longer have a different perspective probably than the people who have been here in that less than 5-year category. But what I thought was interesting is I started looking at what we use as our comparable counties. Those are the ones we look at to benchmark against. So how are we doing on a certain topic? How do they handle a situation? We look for best practices or practices, oh my gosh, we certainly don't want to do that. But we use benchmark counties, and what I thought was interesting, when you look at this, the green line, if you can see it, if at least the color, is Sarasota County. I didn't expect to see things like when you deal with the growth rate that's projected, that we would be below Charlotte County and Manatee County when it comes to that. And then Osceola County is off the charts, both on projected growth and actual growth. So Sarasota County is actually the 21st county in the state out of 26 when it comes to growth. I know we all think, those of us who've lived here for a while, we think everybody's moving here, right? But that's actually just not the case. The whole state is experiencing this. Even the rural part of the state where both my brother and sister live, you know, anytime somebody moves into their counties, it's an issue, and they think that's too much growth. So it does put a squeeze on resources, both for you and for those of us who are required to provide services. But it is the reality of the Sunshine State, and a lot of what we were built on as a state overall, and certainly Sarasota County being more than 100 years old, has experienced. So one of the things that, again, you know, there are some local government things that you just kind of geek out on because that's what you do for a living. So whatever you did for a living, I'm sure there's things you get geeked out on too. But I think when you look at the city of Sarasota, which obviously, you know, at the beginning, 3 years ago now, was the population center and the bulk of it. But when you look at the shift in the red dots are the shift in the population center to our geographic center. And you can see that population shift is kind of heading right for that geographic center within the county. So actually the majority of our growth happens in unincorporated Sarasota County and the city of Northport. That is where you're seeing the most residential growth in the county. Let's see if this video plays. I'll go back, please. You're going the wrong way.
Bottom button.
Bottom button, he said. Let's see if this video plays here. It's a great video, yeah, it is fun. So, of course, you probably can't see it, but when you get the QR code, these green areas are, come on, play. I'm telling you, it's a great video. It should just automatically play.
Well,
Let me go back one more and then re-forward it. Let me go back one more. Let's see what happens. Well, trust me, it is an amazing video. Well, what it shows you over time, and when you get the QR code, the video should load.
Let it download.
Oh, it's downloaded.
It should.
I'll take your word for it, because I cannot see that.
Well, the bar went away.
Okay.
Download.
Well, while it's doing that, I'm going to explain to you what you're going to see. You're going to see that in 1950, this is where the population growth occurred. And then over time, it's going to show you where the population growth, first by decade, and then by smaller increments, and ultimately by year.
Is it not showing?
No, it's loading.
Is it not showing here?
Not yet. But we're only going to go for about 5 more seconds, and then we're going to skip it. Basically, it tells you if you don't travel all of Sarasota County, what it tells you is that while
it's not playing here yet.
That's fine. The population growth started here in Sarasota County. That's what it looks like. But the explosion over the past, since really the 1980s, has been down in this part of the county with massive explosion in population here in the city of Northport as you went from 1990 really into the 2010 timeframe and beyond. I hope you get a chance to look at it because it is kind of, if you're interested in what population growth looks like in the county, it is interesting to see that retrospective, and each one of those dots represents that increase in population. So, and Commissioner Smith did have another commitment today. My mind wants to tell me that it had something to, I'm sure you all have met Esther, it had something to do with Esther, and I think we can all say that listening to her is probably in his best interest. Just saying, right? That's probably pretty true. So that was pre Hurricane Helene. He told me that, so I may have the wrong event, but I do believe that was the case. So from the county perspective, on a staff side, right? So I don't do politics. I don't vote in commission meetings. Actually, it's pretty rare where you even hear me talk in a county commission meeting. When I was a city manager, I had to frequently. It just operates a little differently. As the county administrator, most of my work is done with my staff long before we get to the meeting, and then the board sets the policy. Most important thing my board does every year for me, it's actually not the budget. The most important thing they do for me every year is set their strategic plan, which identifies both their vision, mission, their 5-year goals, and then what are the policy action items they want to focus on that year. Because I'm not elected, so I work on the things that they identify as important. Now, I'm not talking about did we mow the median, right? I'm talking about big policy issues and what that looks like. So, just taking a look at it, the goals have been fairly consistent, but it talks about exceptional county services aligned with resources, things like world-class amenities, quality of life amenities, and it's clear in the details on that. That is not just tourist-based. They actually are specific about for people who live here now, but also the tourists. Safe place to work, live, and play, because what strategic plan can exist in the municipality without having that one? Robust, growing business opportunities, and the one they put on me, high-performing county team. So the 2,200 employees that work for me, how are they doing at their job every day? And we do an annual citizen opinion survey that talks about that. But they also set their policy agenda. And the policy agenda is more one-year focused. What policy discussions do they want to have? They're not saying they know the answer. They know the answer, there's no point in putting it on the list. It's things that over the course of the year that they want to explore, they want to talk about, where 3 out of the 5 of them decide what kind of action we're going to take on any particular topic. So one huge one this year that just really won't get that much attention had to do with the 3rd reservoir at Peace River. And I'm sure you're all going, oh, of course, the 3rd reservoir at Peace River, that is important. I'm glad we did that. No, most of you probably don't know that. But for the region, the 4-county region, Manatee, Sarasota, DeSoto, and Charlotte, we get the majority of our water supply through the Peace River Water Authority. It's an authority that was created by the state with the sole intent of making sure that we have water supply. So the county took very aggressive action as one of the 4 members on that board to make sure the county, and then the opportunity for our cities if they chose to participate, like the city of Northport chooses to get some water from us, protecting our water supply and making sure we have water supply to deal with any growth that does occur for the next 50 years. And that's what that 3rd reservoir will do. To put it in perspective, the reservoir is so big, it takes 2 years to fill once it's built. The existing reservoir is large enough if you ever get a chance to go out there and tour it, and they will give you a tour. It actually gets its own tidal force. It's so big. 6 billion gallons of water when it's full. The next one most likely will be 8 billion gallons. So, but then there's things like how do the county deal with regional parks, because we're in the regional park business. We're not in the small or neighborhood park business, and so prior to this year, the county had not taken action to build a new regional park in more than 20 plus years. So we did break ground on a brand new regional park at 17th Street, just off Fruitville here, which will create lots of opportunities both for youth sports and adult sports. It's where our softball complex is now, but really enhancing that property and really taking it to new heights. And then just recently, the county, actually 2 meetings ago, struck a deal with the city of Venice where we are taking ownership of Wellfield Park, which is a large park down there, which we will, over a period of time, because it's going to take a lot of time and money, convert and make our next regional park. It serves as a regional park now, but it was the city's asset and it was starting to get dilapidated. They're giving us $20 million towards the anticipated cost of retrofitting and improving it. So both of those were hit this year. One of the other ones I'll just touch on, because I was told to by Mr. Harris, is affordable housing. And I'm gonna show a slide in a minute, but the sheet of paper you have in front of you does detail kind of what we consider our facts on the things the county has done really since the beginning of 2018 to take actions around what optimal housing, workforce housing, affordable housing, whatever term you want to use. The county commission has taken the position primarily, our role is to create mechanisms for people to choose to get into that business. However, we do fund others, and I'll talk about that in a second here. One of the other huge things that the county is working on for the first time in probably 40 years is our facilities. While we do a good job of providing facilities, because we fund your constitutionals, we fund the sheriff, tax collector, supervisor, elections, clerk of the court, and property appraiser under state law. We've done a good job of keeping their facilities updated and modernized and dispersed where there's population growth, but we haven't done a very good job on county facilities itself. So, of course, our downtown was this little blue dot here. I don't have to worry too much about the words, but we're leaving downtown. We thought it was the opportunity, going back to 2019 in our strategic plan. The board said, hey, we need to, with all the economic development growth that was happening in the city and the downtown core, create that opportunity for more economic growth, but also to get us out of a flood zone, considering that is our main county building with our, for a long time, it was the county's EOC. Not sure why we had an EOC in a major flood zone and a building that old with one of the four walls, which is really just a fake wall, but that's what we did. So we're moving out off Fruitville in 75, just to the other side of 75. But we couldn't afford to build a building that houses everything that we have in the building now. And from an operational perspective, I was not comfortable. I'd rather have my Parks and Rec administration team near my Parks and Rec operations team. So they'll be going to a building at Twin Lakes Park because that's where our operations center is. My fire department, which currently operates out of admin. Of course, right now, none of us operate out of admin because the storm took care of that for us. But so literally, there are none of us in the admin building on Ringling. But up until now, the fire department has been there as well from an administrative perspective. They're going in a building right next to the EOC, which is right down the street from the sheriff's office, and you can think for us why that makes some operational sense. And just like the city was doing with creating a one-stop center for planning and development services kind of items, the county is also doing the same thing, and we're consolidating multiple locations. So whether you're a resident in unincorporated Sarasota County, or a contractor or a builder, come to one location and hopefully don't have to visit 4 different buildings to get an answer to your question. Hopefully you can just get answered it on one trip. So, and I know the city has been excited about what they're doing with their one-stop as well. So, so basically it just shows the geographic dispersion of where we're going. It really, for the first time, will give us the opportunity to have so many things in a corridor. We're spread out. I have more than 400 buildings. Some of them are little shacks. Some of them are places people work out of every day. But you can imagine the logistics that goes behind that and the ability to put them closer together so we can have our employees closer together and more opportunity to work together is a good thing for us. You know, I mentioned 17th Street. These are some major parks that we're working on. Park improvements at Kensington, which I think has been talked about for like 40 years. No, it's been a long time. I think it's been since the 80s. So they're actually in there now. Philippi Creek tributaries and some of the stormwater work behind that. Any of you drive Bahia Vista on a regular basis?
Yes.
We cannot wait till that project is just 100% done. That has just been the most painful. I've been doing this a long time. That is the most painful project I've ever been a part of. So, and then one of the things we're really, really proud about it at the county level is we believe the quality of water here in Sarasota County is one of the most, if not the most important thing we have to provide our community. And when it comes to water quality, one of the things we control is what comes out of our wastewater plant The city for a long time has been at advanced wastewater treatment, the county has not. And we're doing the most expensive project the county has ever undertaken to convert our biggest wastewater plant to the highest level of treatment. Basically, when it comes out, I'm not saying you'd want to, but when it comes out, it's drinking water standard. So less than 3 parts per billion, which is the standard by the state and federal government. And we're converting our other 2 smaller plants as well. So we're very proud of that. We know that's something we directly control regarding water quality versus telling other people what to do. And so that's something we've undertaken to make sure that we're taking care of our stuff. One thing I can't go out and talk about without addressing is our legacy trail. It, by any measure, from a usage perspective, has been a massive success. Obviously, the residents of Sarasota County overwhelmingly voted to have us do debt service and voted to do a millage rate to fund that project. Couple of the upcoming things what are going to be happening, you'll see the construction on a couple of these actively being done, but you'll have overpasses going in at Tuttle, Bahia Vista, Beneva, and Clark. And some of those are under construction right now. As well as the potential for future expansion of that system, both by our municipalities, as well as the county as we go forward in coming years. I think the community will continue to prioritize how do we continue to grow that so it hits more areas within the county. I'm not gonna go through all this, but I do wanna point out, and it should be on that sheet, when it comes to affordable housing, the other thing county has done other than getting obstacles out of the way is when we've received money from the federal government, we have taken the lead at putting that back out in affordable housing. Now, we're not gonna do it directly. We are not interested in providing direct affordable housing services. We don't think we would be good at that at the county level. And now I will say as the administrator, if the board gave it to me to do, we'd rock it. But just philosophically, we don't believe that we should be doing that. Instead, others that currently do it, whether it's the Sarasota Housing Authority or others, we did a competitive process, had them apply for the funding, had them tell me how many units they could do, what percentage AMI, all those types of things, and then those applications went in front of the board and the board prioritized. When it came to this seems like 100 years ago, but the COVID money that came in, the American Rescue Plan money, Sarasota County took the lead in the state. There was only one other jurisdiction that got direct funding from the federal government that put more into affordable housing. We put 30% of our money into affordable housing, which was 25 million of that allotment. And we're starting to see those projects come out of the way. As it happens, a lot of them are in the city of Sarasota area, not all in the city of Sarasota, some are. But there's also projects down south in Venice and unincorporated Sarasota County that we've done. And then we did that again when we got the disaster money after Ian. The board took the same position. And if we get disaster money, as it relates to everything we've all been through this summer, I would anticipate the board would take the same type of action going forward. Okay, so how could I be a good county administrator who was a finance director once upon a time if I didn't say our finances are really good? We are AAA rated, so if you think about your personal credit score and what that falls in terms of your ability to borrow money cheaply, Sarasota County is AAA plus. That is the highest rating we can receive on a general obligation basis. We're a AA plus on our utilities, which for all practical purposes on a public utility is the highest you can get. So that means if we have to borrow money, and sometimes we do, we're able to borrow it at the cheapest rate possible, and therefore by getting those infrastructure improvements done for the community at the lowest rate sooner, because we're able to borrow the money early. Our budget is overall about $2 billion. Now, some of that is not mine. Again, I mentioned I fund the constitutional offices. Some of it's utilities, some of it's solid waste. You take that out, the general fund money, which is largely supported by property taxes, is about I'm gonna use round numbers, about $300 million. And the biggest piece is that is us investing in public safety and our sheriff's office. Everything else goes down pretty quickly after that in numbers. If any of you care about where the county's at with debris, to put it in shortly, we have, passed the, 550,000, cubic yard mark, a couple days ago. In unincorporated county, the debris is getting picked up. And of course, everybody feels like it's not happening fast enough for them. We put together a 90-day plan, submitted it to the state. We fully anticipate everywhere in unincorporated Sarasota County will be done within 90 days. And because the federal government was able to declare us 100% for debris for both Helene and Milton very quickly, usually it's much later in the process, when we opened up our sites where residents could drop off vegetation, usually we can't do this, but this time we opened up to municipal residents as well. So if somebody gets tired of having it in their yard and they want to take it themselves, and it's storm-related vegetation, they can take it themselves. Usually we can't do the municipalities, but this time, since we could, we did. Skip that, and I'm gonna stop there. I'm at questions, though. Let's
Yeah,
stop.
there we go.
Yeah,
Thank you.
yeah.
Questions?
Yes, sir.
One of the things you mentioned with the Northwest
Dennis.
Olympic Creek
Hold on, hold on.
tributaries.
Dennis.
Hold on.
What is that project?
Yeah, you're getting yelled at, so I'm not doing anything until they're done yelling at you. I can repeat it.
Bad redundant. That's good enough for Dennis.
Okay.
A dead mic.
I-
Is that what you just said they're
Name-
giving me?
Dennis
All right, there you
Bischoff, Lido Shores. I just wanna know what the Northwest Olympic Creek Tributaries project is.
So it's a bunch of projects. Some of them have to do with how they're cleaned out. Some of them have to do with some grant funding we've been able to receive to clean them out. Others have to do with some of the neighborhood enhancements, the light around Bahia Vista, and what we're able to do with the canal system there. But I do believe, well, I know in January, my board is gonna be having a workshop to talk about stormwater generally. And particularly the unincorporated. The only city we do any maintenance services for stormwater is the city of Sarasota. Venice, Northport, Longboat Key do their own. And one of the things the board has asked us to do is to go back, and particularly with areas like Philippi Creek and what way water flows matters, where the rainfall matters. You can have rainfall in Sarasota County, doesn't mean it's coming in your area. And they want to do a refresh study on what that looks like for those off the tributaries in the Philippi Creek area.
We got a question over here?
Wait a minute.
One more on that. The reason I asked that is my daughter and son-in-law live on Philippi Creek and got really trashed during Debbie. Is that gonna help the flooding situation? That's basically my question.
Sure, no, that's a very reasonable question. I'm gonna answer it probably more directly than I should. We get 18 inches of rain in that short a period of time? No, probably not. Now, they are gonna take steps to give us the long-term plan of how we can do different things with that. But I mean, that was historic rainfall. Those of you who have been here a long time, I don't know if there's anybody in the room who was here in the 1960s, but that was really the last time you had that kind of impact. And the way the rain fell, and then the way the water flows, it just all went to Philippi. Not all, a vast majority of it went to the Philippi Creek area. And if you think about that, so I was the city manager in Northport, like I told you. So I was the city manager, and I mean, the whole Florida was a swamp, right? But we were certainly a swamp when we were first developed. And everything's off drainage canals for ag. That's just how the city was built. We would watch the range gauge all the way up at 72 in the state park, because we knew, give or take, an inch at 72 would relate to a foot of water rise down in Northport. And people just don't think about that. So really the bulk of the rain fell out east and north, kind of in the Verna area, but the way the water slough works, it all ended up here. So we do need to refresh that. We do need to look at other options. I think it would be unrealistic to say, and look, this is not a statement on politics. This is a statement on fact. We know water is rising in the Gulf, and we know the tidals matter more than they even used to. And so when the rain falls and what that looks like from a tidal perspective is something we have to figure out. Yes, obviously our level of standard is, yes, you'll get water on the road, but our level of standard is also there should never be water in homes. So that's what we're working toward. We have one of the most aggressive standards in the state. The city, I think, is going to it as well. which is, the 100-year rain event. Most places do 25. But my board's even talking about, do we need to, on further growth, look at that, and then how would we retrofit the things we're responsible for to maybe even get a more intense, period of time. So, I don't know all the answers to that, yes. Do I think we're gonna do things that make it better? Well, yeah, or why do it, right? But, I don't know, that was pretty crazy. Debbie was pretty crazy. So,
Thank you.
Over here.
Yes, so I see that,
Name and neighborhood.
oh, Valerie Bouchard, housing. So, you were, talking about allocation. When you, allocate dollars for affordable housing, do you enter into agreement for the funds that you give to the housing authority, and do y'all follow up on what is happening with your dollars that is being given?
so probably to William's, displeasure. So for example, 2 projects, the county commission funded with that money. One was the next phase of Lofts on Lemon. The other was, I wanna say Central Gardens, but that's not correct. Maybe it was Cypress. I can't remember the other one, but we pick at the agreement so much and the deadlines we put on it, that they just came back and said, hey, look, we can't do that project on time. Can we put this money over here, cause that we can get on time. So when it comes to the allocate, because remember, most of that money is money we get from the federal government, and if what we allocated it for and what we told the federal government it's gonna get used for doesn't happen, we have to pay it back. And we pay that back with all your money. So yes, we now, the standards that go into the contracts are the standards that go in the contract. And I will tell you that, we have very good working relationship, with folks like Mr. Russell who are in that. But yeah, we do hold them accountable. Even places like the Loveland Center down south, which is primarily, a service provider for those with disabilities, adults with disabilities. But they're adding a component for seniors and affordable housing with that, so they can kind of, have one support the other a little bit. And, we're gonna hold them to the same standard. Everything that's under the contract, we gotta make them do.
So is that public records?
Absolutely.
Can you get, okay, thanks.
Absolutely. They're all voted on in a public meeting. All the contracts are approved in a public meeting by the board, 100% of it. Yes, ma'am.
Mayor? Oh, okay, yeah, sure. Name and neighborhood.
Yes, Sherman Baldwin Park East. Thank you, John, for being here today. I appreciate it. As a small business owner, I'm speaking to a lot of small business owners, and we're all trying to rebuild and recover and all of that. What resources for small businesses are available to the county? And then secondly, and this is for the city as well, is there a way to expedite those that are trying to rebuild after the storm for permitting and things like that? Because I'm getting reports where they just get on the list, which I understand, but if they're doing damage repair to get open and hire weekly wage workers, somehow expediting the permitting process would be greatly appreciated. Thank you.
No, and that's a question not just on the commercial side. It is a question on the commercial side. It's also a question as people are trying to restore their homes and get back into their homes as quickly as possible. I'll tell you what I do immediately after the storm. Once we know that we've had significant damage, my board has entrusted me, under Florida statute, the counties are responsible for emergency management. Cities have emergency management function, but there's some things that the county is just responsible for. When it comes to when the storm comes through, even before the board can act, I put into effect a waiver of building permit fees for things related to damage recovery. So we try to put as many things on that list as possible. And then I take it back to the board, because I'm not gonna wait until we have a board meeting to put that in place. So I put it in place, and then I kind of cross my fingers and hope my board agrees with me. Fortunately, in every storm that I've done that, they have, because I take it back them for either them to yell at me for the action I took or to ratify it. So that is one thing we do immediately, which is to remove the financial barrier of the permit, right? Particularly in a year like this, it's true anytime, but when you have businesses that have been wiped out 4 times in 1 year, any little thing you can do matters. When it comes to expediting, the problem is, yes, we do expedite, however, we have more than 4,000 impacted structure, either major, minor, or destroyed throughout the county. So I can't prioritize his over his, when they both were damaged by the same storm, at that point, I do take those in order. But we do try and expedite them. One of the things we've gone to try and expedite it even more, fortunately, we were working on this just to be a better organization, is the amount of things we can do through these things. If there's something that the building inspector, because the building official under state law is responsible for that, I can't even tell the building, I could get rid of the building official, but I can't tell him how to do his job. It's protected on state law for very, very good reasons. But if there's things he's confident he can protect the homeowner on and do his inspection and make sure that the contractor can video it. We don't do hot water permits, but that would be a good example to me. But there are ones we do. And then we have ones that are over the counter. Basically, you can call them in over the phone, certain roofing permits, things like that, and those are like that. I wish drywall was one of them. I'm not quite sure why it's not. We're looking at that. We have a whole list of them we're looking at fixing this year. And the board at our last meeting just approved a whole nother round of steps that we're gonna take related to expedited permitting. They just got approved at the last meeting, so now we'll work them into the system for the future, but we do try and prioritize those. So even for damaged debris, unincorporated county, our main area hit was evacuation zone A. So anywhere in evacuation zone A. I don't live in evacuation zone A, I live out east. Do I have plenty of vegetation? Yes, but I can wait. We need to get the areas along our coastal area cleaned up, the businesses and residents. I have no problem waiting personally until they get their stuff out of there and that they can even begin rebuilding and before somebody comes and gets the debris at my house. So we do try and prioritize those things accordingly where it's practical.
Good. Jonathan, Mary Butler, Amarillo
Good to
Park
see you.
Neighborhood Association. On the county surplus properties, the 2501 Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Way, I see here that you guys have sold it. Who have you sold it to?
So, I mean, it's a corporation. I don't remember the corporation's name, but it's a group that's made up of a gentleman named Eldon Johnson and a group he works with, which has done affordable housing, not just here, but in other places. And again, that went through an application process. They got applications, anybody who was interested in that money, and then they competed based on.
Okay, and I want to add to that, and how, with 25% of the units being affordable for 10 years, what happens after those 10 years? They are no longer affordable? Is that that's what this is saying?
Yeah, they may not be. So at some point you do have to put a threshold in, and believe it or not, in the application process, what we went for was 30. But at that point, that was the best we could get out of those who are interested in, it's the question is, do you want to get no affordable housing for that period of time? Or do you want to take advantage of it and at least make a step in that direction and get it for a while? So.
Okay, and my very last one, the culverts. I understand right now the storm debris is definitely a priority, but when can we expect some work to be done on our culvert cleanings in our community? Because that's where a lot of the flooding.
Are you talking about routine cleaning or as it relates to the storm itself? Or both?
Routine cleaning. I mean, I haven't seen any in my neighborhood in a long, long time.
So everything should be on a cycle, and you and I can talk about that. You can give me specific examples, and we can talk about that. Generally speaking, I mean, depending on the type, culverts are a little bit different than stormwater ditches, and stormwater ditches are a little bit different than stormwater canals. I went and looked at one off 47th Street the other day in the city, because I had a gentleman who was very agitated. Apparently in our system, it's listed as a canal. Not really sure how we get it. It's a ditch. I mean, whatever the system is, it's a ditch. And if that's the level of service that we expect, it is something we're going to be revisiting, because what I saw was not something I'm okay with. So we can talk about specific ones and maybe either by email or phone, and we can take a look at those.
She was next, she was first. Well,
I'm closer, I'll bring in the mic. Who was it, was it you?
Yeah, just a quick question. You said that 30% of the COVID money went into affordable housing, and then you said an amount, and I didn't catch the amount.
25 million.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. That was an easy one. The only group that beat us in the state of Florida on total dollars was the city of St. Pete. So when it came to counties, we put more in attainable housing than anyone else.
Thank you. Thank you.
My name is Marissa Dawson, president of Central Coconut. I have a couple of questions. Number one, that property 2501 MLK was used for debris the last hurricane. Many of our residents can't get all the way out to Twin Lakes Park. Was there no way that you all could communicate with the new owner and ask
It should be being used right now.
for debris?
Yeah.
I'm not aware of that. I'll have to look because it's not anywhere that
We got it authorized.
I
mean,
see
to be
anywhere
quite
on your
honest,
websites or anywhere. I'll look.
Yeah, so that's MLK and Tuttle. But
Is it-
that was,
Yeah,
and
is
I
there?
can follow up with you, but that one was going to be activated both for C and D and vegetative, but it's not residential drop off. So we do have, we
So
have-
the public can't use it?
Not, they can, I mean, it's the public stuff that's going there one way or the other, right? It's not like it's coming from private businesses, it's coming from residents. But it does wait until the debris hauler brings it there.
So I can't take my trailer full of debris. That's the issue because a lot of people would like to take it and Twin Lakes Park is so far away and that's the closest one.
Actually, it's Rothenbeck Park.
Rothenbeck, but it's
Yeah,
still pretty
Rothenbeck
far
And
away.
then the Jackson Road Transfer Station.
Right.
Those are the two places we have open.
And
And
they're-
some of that's just an issue of, there's only so many we can open at one time.
I understand. Next, Midnight Pass is the only silver lining in this whole mess. Has the county made any decisions about that at all?
I don't know, it depends what you mean by decisions.
The county, I'm sorry, the county.
Yeah, it depends what you mean by decisions. So long before the storms, my board had prioritized all 5 of them, that they thought doing whatever we could with the state and federal government to reopen it. Certainly, what happened in Milton was not gonna keep it open. I mean, it was almost closed by the time Milton came. And then at the last meeting, the county commission said, because what our process is going to try and change state law. The real obstacle is state law says, once something's been closed, if you don't immediately deal with it, that you can't reopen it. And it's been closed for a long time. We're taking the position, sent a letter off to the regulatory agencies this week. My board hasn't voted on this, but I sent it this week. We're taking the position it's open. And so we will pursue permitting that way. Now, how we will keep it open and how it will be is plain and simple about money. Because it's gonna be very expensive for an ongoing basis. It really needs to be about 300 feet wide and 12 feet deep to stay open on a natural flow from itself. And we're not anywhere close to that. But the county, because my board did say to county administrator, go do whatever you can. If we're gonna have the lemons from the storms, do whatever you can do to take advantage of the lemonade that one thing is. So we're taking everything we can do to make sure we don't get to control that, but we are taking the position definitively. We consider it open. There's a nuance in the law that talks about intermittent. That's what we're taking advantage of. And we'll take steps to fight with the federal government, state government about allowing us to keep it open.
Thank you. My last question is on the Whitaker Bayou. The county's in charge of keeping that open. It got flooded pretty bad during the various storms. Is there any plans to do any kind of dredging or maintenance on that? And thank you so much for being here today.
Absolutely. So Whitaker's one, actually, we get a lot. We have a lot of communication with the people that live in that area about that particular topic. It's actually a project on the county's list separate from the storm. So what a lot of people don't, maybe you guys know this, but what a lot of people don't know is an unincorporated county, about 50% of our local streets are not actually county streets. And the same thing is with a lot of those canals that you see that people vote on. There are ones though that we do have responsibility for. And that one was on the list before the storms. So I don't remember where it's on in the project schedule, and I can give you my email address, and if you want to shoot me an email, and I'll get you the right answer to that. I don't know if it's on the slide or not, but can I just give it to everybody now? So JRLEWIS at scgov.net. The other thing all of you should be able to do is anytime you can pick up the phone and dial 311. That should get you to our call center, and if they can't resolve your issue, they should be able to get you to the people who can.
Can I just say something really quick about
No.
311?
I'm not gonna do anything.
Later, thank you, later. We have time for 2 more questions.
Good morning.
Eileen,
Eileen Normile from Hudson Bayou.
And then Scott.
Excuse me, pardon?
And then Scott.
Oh, okay. You mentioned you were dispersing county facilities to where there's population growth, but I didn't hear you say
Just to
anything.
clarify, I didn't say that.
Oh, I wrote that down when I thought you said that.
No, I did not say that. We are moving out, and we are dealing with county facilities in terms of what growth means, but the facilities aren't going where they're going because of growth.
Okay.
They're going because we already own the land, and why buy land if we already own land?
Okay,
Yeah.
Thank
That's
you.
just, I mean,
thanks for
yeah,
clarifying that.
absolutely,
But the
sorry.
one thing you didn't talk about was a new jail.
Mm.
What are the plans
That's
for
a
that?
great question. How long do I have? No, seriously, this is, look, there are a couple of things. Sometimes people ask me the question, what as the county administrator worries me most about our future? And all kidding aside, the correctional institution in Sarasota County is certainly in the top 3, if not number 1. And part of the reason I'm worried is because there's no natural constituent to help deal with it. I mean, if you're not somebody who's in jail, you probably are not all that worried about our jail. But, so at the last meeting, you asked me all kind of good questions that we just talked about, so I can answer them. At our last commission meeting, our board authorized us to go forward with a plan to look at the properties in downtown that we already have around both the courthouse and the jail, to see how we would deal with growth on the existing properties that we own. The biggest part of that, and when we did a task force back in 17 or 18, I can't remember, through the CJC, was our sheriff believes, then and now, both sheriffs believe that a community correctional facility where we increase beds to pull people out who may or maybe either have mental health issues that are not violent offenders, or who have substance abuse problems, and those are really the issue, that we can greatly reduce the repeat offender if we can get the substance abuse or the mental health problem stabilized. It would still be secured, so I guess functionally it's a jail, but they would be separated out from the other population and receiving individual assistance. And so that we know we want to do. It's just a question of money. Moving the pieces around in downtown that we currently have in our facilities will be a very expensive proposition. So they've authorized us to go forward. We'll be working with somebody who specializes in this to see how we can dovetail the jail and the courthouse in the best way with the resources we have to keep the costs as low as possible.
Hello? Has there been any thought to moving it further south?
So, to be quite honest, if we could have a complex that dealt with the courts, the jails, the state's attorney, the public defender, the drug rehab courts, all that happens in those buildings that people are kind of, if you're not using them, you don't know how much of that downtown core right there, just outside the downtown core off Ringling is used for those services. But you're probably talking billions of dollars to do that. Just to be able to buy land out east, and then, nobody wants it in their neighborhood. What I always committed to the former city manager is, when the county goes ahead with this, we will pay attention. One thing I can pay attention to is the architectural style, to make sure it doesn't look any more institutional than by function it has to. And that's still a commitment from my perspective. I think my board will support that as we go forward. But there is no practical way right now to do the jail somewhere other than where it is.
Just to follow up on the Philippi Creek question, it's my understanding from a presentation I saw from Stephen Swa that there was a breach in the dike.
Yeah, but everybody has to watch the whole presentation, because it's actually not true.
Well, I was at the presentation.
Yeah, so the details matter. We actually tried to hire Mr. Swan. We're at the point of PO, because most of our stormwater system was actually designed by him, because he was the county stormwater.
Right, well, my
I'm
question
gonna
was.
answer.
We can't get into an argument.
No, I just, the way the newspaper has portrayed this information in terms of editorial is a little annoying to me. The what ended up on the Philippi Creek and what happened in the celery fields has nothing related, because it's in a different slough than where the breach was south of Rothenbeck Park. That has to do with why Laurel Meadows was impacted. but it doesn't have to do, the water was gonna go where the water was gonna go anyway. What he talked about is that maybe in the projections, that what ended up on Philippi Creek, even though all the models said it would have about a foot more water, the reality was it was a foot less water. So yeah, theoretically, you could have lowered a gate and maybe a foot more would have gone through, but we don't do that as a matter of practice because we don't want to flood Philippi Creek any more than we have to. So we do, by practice and policy, hold back the water at that gate. But the way that water wise, that water coming in from where the breach on Cowpen Slough was, doesn't touch what was there. And that's just functionally true.
But my only question was, are you planning to increase the inspections of these various,
There-
Okay,
based on what-
Eileen, we have to move on. We have to, thank you. Scott? Name.
Scott Ashby, Leader Key Residents Association.
Yes, sir.
Thank you again, Mr. Bush, for your services and for being here. So this is stormwater and probably, way below your.
Not this summer.
We happen to have a resident who came to this meeting in particular because the stormwater, according to the information that we have, the stormwater sewers or the system has never been cleaned out in 2 years, and they've been trying to get it done. Anyway, that's the point.
Okay. Do you have a name or number or anything?
I'll connect you.
All right.
I'm
Good.
actually the person if I
No,
can.
ma'am, no, please.
I'm just telling you.
No,
Okay,
please.
okay, I'm just saying.
But anybody in the room can email me at the email I gave.
Later,
So,
yeah. Thank you. Sorry.
and I'm sorry how definitive I was in that response. I was just very annoyed at the editorial because I don't think the editorial took into full account what
All right.
Mr. Swat said.
This one. Okay, we have plenty to do today, so we need to move on. And I think we could spend another 2 days with your time.
And I love being invited. Thank you for inviting me. We had to go back and forth on how the tech would work, and he finally put up with me on it. I really appreciate being given the opportunity. I am serious. It's one of the few community groups where I actually get to talk to community members, even in this forum that I get. So I really do appreciate the invite and being able to come out here this morning.
In 2 years, you'll get invited back.
All right, I hope you do.
All right.